Welcome to the 1905 podcast with your hosts Joe Kevin and Chris Sheen. Joe and I have been going to Stamford Bridge for over 30 years. This podcast takes you inside our unfiltered voice notes on all things Chelsea, sharing our view from Gate 13 of the Matthew Harding stand. Let's hit the notes. In this week's episode, Joe and I are together in person.
We are indeed, mate. How are you?
Very well, thank you. This is very rare. We are sat in a beautiful bar called Amazing Grace in London Bridge. And we thought we'd change it up, international break, and do one live.
It's fantastic. We've got a little intimate table, little table of light. It's fantastic.
It's stunning.
Very nice.
It's stunning. So it's international break. The big news, which I think we should touch upon to start, is that England have a new manager, Tommy Tuchel. What's your first impressions?
I was a little bit surprised. He was linked with a job, and they kept saying Pep or Tuchel or whatever. And I was like, I don't think they're going to take it. It'll be an English manager. It'll be someone like Eddie Howe in the end. But I think it's a brilliant appointment. As a Chelsea fan, we know what he's like and what he can bring to the table. I also think he can bring a lot of disruption. I think if you look at PSG, he left it in a mess. At Chelsea, you could argue that the owners kind of created the mess, but I think he didn't help the situation. He then went to Bayern Munich, and obviously there was chaos at Bayern Munich. So I do feel as though he's a brilliant manager, and I love him to pieces. But I do believe there is a little bit of he can antagonise people, and I think that might get up the media's nose, who then may come at him if the results don't go quite well. It's true.
Yeah, it's very true. Actually, he's very different to Southgate, who is very much like the company man who just do what he was told, and you felt like it was really good. Tuchel, you're going to get fireworks, but I'm sure you might have got the same. I got a few WhatsApps this morning from various football groups I'm on saying, right, you're the Chelsea fan, what can we expect? And my first thought was, number one, he's a brilliant cup manager. And
yes,
his record in knockout football with Chelsea was actually a joke, really. Obviously, he won the Champions League famously, but that season we reached the cup final. Next season we reached both domestic cup finals and lost to bloody Liverpool and on penalties both times. So he won the Super Cup. So he was almost flawless in cups. I think that actually translates to other clubs he's been at as well. So that was going to be, I think it'll be really good for that. And with the international football, that is the name of the game. So those big games where England have kind of found wanting in the big semi-finals and finals, Tuchel might be the man for it. That was the first thought I had. And the second thought I had was, there's going to be a few Chelsea players who are going to be thinking, this could be good news for me. Do you know what I mean? People like Reece James and...
Oh, absolutely. I think he's also a guy that the media will come for him. If the results don't go well, Southgate, they never went for him. Initially, after the World Cup when we lost to Croatia, there was a few knives out, but it was quite played down. The players came out in support of him. The players will definitely support Tuchel initially, but I do feel as though if it starts to go wrong with him, it could go very, very wrong. It's only an 18-month contract. Basically, they're just saying, you've got the World Cup, let's see how you go. They can extend it, I know that. But it does feel as though they brought him in we have a team right now with Palmer and Foden and Kane or whatever. We can win now. And I do feel as though, like you just said there about Reece James and a few Chelsea players coming back, yes, I can see that. But I do think those younger players, he's probably very excited to work with, like the new age players. And I think that he probably wouldn't have got the chance to work with them any other ways. I don't know. I feel as though he's a brilliant choice. Whether he can deliver or not, England's always got this stigma. They always lose on penalties or they lose a close game. We're the nearly men, aren't we? And he's got to break it. If he has a poor qualification and scrapes through, the media will be out for him straight away. If we have a poor start to a group, but get through, again, the media are going to be all over him again. He can handle the pressure, that's for sure. But I do feel there might be a few choice words along the way. Let's just say that.
It's an ups and downs. Now, it'll be interesting to see how he does. I think the final comment on him I'll have is Gary Neville, who we've talked about a bit on this podcast, normally in negative ways because of some of the stuff he said about Chelsea in the last year or so. But one thing he said before Tuchel was appointed, and I actually think I'd probably agree with it, but I'd be interested to get your thoughts.
Go on.
And it was basically all the managers getting linked to the job, Graham Potter, Tuchel, Lampard, etc. And he said, when you're a country like England, you should have an English manager. When you are that big a football nation, he called it cheating, basically, if you have a foreign manager.
I have heard that.
And I'm kind of inclined to be with him on that, but I wanted to know what you think.
So you think it is cheating? That's your opinion.
I think that England win the World Cup under Tuchel. It's got a weird feel to it. You've got literally a German managing England team. That would have been unheard of 30 years ago. And I don't know. I feel like it mean a little bit more if it's an English manager.
But I would say when Neville was working with Ericsson, I don't know if he worked with Capello, if he was on the coaching staff, I can't remember. He was with Hodgson, I know that. But when, obviously, Neville can't choose the England manager, so when he was playing, he can't choose Ericsson, I get that. But it wouldn't have felt any different to him. I do feel as though when pundits come out of football, they're very quick to kind of jump on that bandwagon. I don't see an England manager out there that's capable of winning it. Eddie Howe gets so much praise, and I'm not knocking the guy. I'm sure he's a very good manager at a certain level. Would you want him at Would you want Eddie Howe at Chelsea? If you said tomorrow, Eddie Howe is the next Chelsea manager, I would feel a bit meh about it. That's my opinion. I think that England have basically said, we're going for the best man available. And Tuchel is not just the best man available, you just said it yourself. He's great in cup competitions. He knows how to win a cup. I don't blame the FA for doing it. I don't consider it cheating. Lots of nations now have international managers. Personally, I just think you've got this team will be forever remembered to win the Nini men, like I said. If they don't get over the line in the World Cup or Euros, World Cup being the biggest one, of course, I don't think it's cheating. I think it's perfectly fine. That's my opinion.
Fair enough. Well, let's see how he does. And that first squad he picks, let's hope he's got a lot of Chelsea players in it, because that would be good. Right. Next section, Q&A. For the next section, we're going to do a bit of Q&A. We had a load of questions in via our Instagram, which is 1905 Podcast, and email, which is hello@1905podcast.com. We picked 3 questions that we're going to answer today. And the first one is from Karen Roper. And I'm excited to hear your answer on this one, Joe. So who is the Chelsea player that you got wrong?
Well, you know this.
I do.
You could have said this yourself. It's Kevin De Bruyne. I'm a little bit embarrassed to say, but in hindsight, when I've thought about this since, De Bruyne at Chelsea was poor at best. And anyone who says different is a liar. Now, at the time we had Lampard and co in that midfield, he was never, ever going to shift them from that position. We bought him when he was too young. That's my opinion. If we'd bought him 2 years later, Man City looked like geniuses. But he didn't go from Chelsea to Man City. He had to go to Wolfsburg, play a little bit, and then they bought him for 50 million. And that was a big gamble. Remember Paul Merson saying that they basically bought an absolute wrong one. He's never going to be a good player. Chelsea have had him, Jose's had him, Jose showed him the door, he can't be any good. When you got Paul Merson saying that, and I like Paul Merson a lot, by the way, I think his punditry is very good.
Big Chelsea fan?
Yeah, big Chelsea fan. I think that we all get things wrong from time to time. He's clearly turned out to be a world-class player. I'll admit that now. But I think anybody at the time that thought that De Bruyne was going to be a world star, you're an absolute liar. He was, the game that broke the camel's back for me was when we played Sunderland away, and he was so bad. I mean, it was embarrassingly bad. Mo Salah, you could argue, he's in the same category. But as in, at the time when they came, they weren't very good and they ended up being great. But that's the one I got wrong. I remember saying to you, I think we played Fulham away at Craven Cottage. I got a vague memory of this. I was in my wife's, not then, but now, we were in her house and you messaged me about De Bruyne. I think you sort of said you quite liked him. We didn't have you weren't as down on him as I was.
I really liked him.
Yeah, but you weren't saying you should play in front of Lampard or, it was like, oh, we could be good. But we had a lot of could-be's at the time. And De Bruyne, obviously, I think Mourinho tells a story that basically he came into to his office one day and just said, I want to play against this team. So you're not even on the bench. And he was like, okay, I want to transfer then. Yeah. And he wasn't prepared to wait. He probably knew how good he was going to be himself. But I think the club and even Jose was like, no, you're not going to play. So he's the one I got wrong. A little bit embarrassed now, but that's my guy.
The thing with De Bruyne was, and I sort of stopped doing this now with Chelsea players because we have so many players that almost feels pointless. My heart's been broken so many times. But this was the era where we had players like De Bruyne, Courtois actually at the time, where we were buying them young and they were on loan still.
Yeah.
So with him, I remember watching all of his. I'm doing with Esteban Villa at the moment in a similar sort of way, but I watched so much of him in general. I was so excited by what he could do. And he's my sort of player. He was an end product player, lots of shots, crosses. He was brilliant in that pre-season. I think it was over in Malaysia. He was unreal. And then he came in. He actually started the first game of the season, did okay. And I was like, he's got something a bit different. He could be, I just thought in the long term he could be really good. I mean, not as good as he became. No one could have predicted that, like you say. But it's funny because that Sunderland game that you referenced, I vividly remember you messaging me saying this guy is absolutely atrocious, or maybe stronger words than that.
It was one of the worst performances I've ever seen.
And I don't know if I've sent you this. I found it on YouTube because there's a great YouTube video.
Okay.
We'll put a highlight on it on our Instagram, which is something like the game that convinced Mourinho to sell De Bruyne. And to be fair, when you watch it back, he is horrendous. It looks like he's got his boots on the wrong feet.
I feel validated.
And it's funny to watch it because a little bit linked to the player I'm going to talk about now, who you mentioned, I got wrong. It is food for thought when you are judging players, like we do naturally. We all do, whether it's a Madrid or whoever, where you go, well, I just can't see him ever improving. These players that we're talking about in this question are great examples that they can come through the other side.
Yeah.
But as I said, I could see something in De Bruyne that could make it that I'd have stuck with him. Mo Salah, I never saw it. He was brilliant against Chelsea.
Was he your one?
Yeah, mine is Mo Salah. I mean, Mo Salah, brilliant against Chelsea for Basel. He came in, he looked lightweight, he looked like he was clueless when he was on the ball. I remember that game at Southend away in the League Cup or something.
Shrewsbury,
there you go, thank you. He was just awful. And it felt like he ran the ball down the blind alley every time he got the ball.
Don't forget the free kick.
Oh, go on.
The free kick, they hit the corner flag.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
It might have been a free kick. It might have been a shot. Open play, sorry. But yeah, he had a shot from the 18-yard box, hit the corner flag.
Yeah, and he just looked just nowhere near it. He looked one of those players who this is the Premier League is too high level for him. Fair play, he needs to be moved on. I just didn't see it. I've always said, I could see something, so I didn't see it at all, and I had to look it up. So for Chelsea, he played 19 games. Actually, he got 2 goals, including the one against Arsenal in the 6-0, 3 assists. For Liverpool, who we play obviously on Sunday, he has scored 217 goals. So he's done all right there. He's done okay, hasn't he?
Can I interject? Because weirdly, and I'm not just saying this to be like devil's advocate, because you said you thought you saw something in De Bruyne. I'm not saying that we shouldn't have sold Salah, but I genuinely thought that Salah had something. Now, that Shrewsbury game that we mentioned, I remember watching it on TV, being quite excited. Chelsea looked like our second string team. Did De Bruyne have played in that? I can't remember, but I don't think he was at the club at that time. I really can't remember. But I remember watching Salah thinking, oh my God, he was dreadful. But actually in the league, when he came on as an impact sub, or like that game against Arsenal, I thought he did have something. And when he played against Chelsea for Basel, he was really good. That's why we signed him. Jose basically went in the next day and said, we need to get this guy. And they did. So I saw a little bit in Salah. Again, I'm not saying we should have kept him. I think we made a profit on De Bruyne and on Salah. From memory serves me right, but obviously it was only a small profit.
They're both really, just to finish on this question, they're both really fascinating. They're both fascinating players when you look at it, because they've become such legends at Liverpool and City.
I know.
I mean, there is an argument they've both been an all-time Premier League 11. That's how good they have been. There is a genuine argument for both of them. And so when you see them in Chelsea clips, it's like a different sport.
It's like it didn't happen.
Yeah. So, for example, like Salah played in the famous Gerrard slip game. So
I didn't know that.
The famous game where Gerrard slips, Liverpool blow the lead, all of that. We obviously put a second 11 out. Mo Salah is in that game. It's just, when we're doing all the, shithousery, like wasting time, doing all that, Salah was part of the Chelsea lineup. He celebrates with Demba Ba when he scores the goal. It's such a weird sort of...
So basically what we can say is we don't know what we're talking about.
Well, yeah. But let's hope that it's been hard to watch the last 10 years. Let's hope Cole Palmer's going to help us get over it. Okay, second question. Simon Webb has asked, what is one Chelsea game you could watch again and again?
Well, do you want to take this one first?
All right, yeah, I'll go first. A couple that came to mind. So the two that came to mind were Barcelona, the 2-2 in the new camp,
Okay, yep, of course. Yeah.
where we obviously, John Terry gets sent off, Ramirez scores that ridiculous chip, and Torres obviously scores the end to send us the Champions League final. The reason I chose that one in my head is it's one of the greatest teams of all time, that Barcelona team. It's always a joy to watch. And it's just a joke performance for us to, like, it's one of those games, every time I even see any of it, I'm like, no, we won't win, we're going to lose this time.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. It's not a great Chelsea performance, but it's always, how did we, I could watch with a smile on your face, because Messi, who scored 65 goals, has been ridiculous that season, misses a penalty. So how are they not going to beat us? And they never do. So it's like watching a movie that you love, even though you're like, the baddie's going to get done at the end. You know, it's great. Yeah. But so that was in my mind. But the one I'm going to go for is one that you've talked about before, Joe. It's against Sunday's opponents. FA Cup, 97. Chelsea 4, Liverpool 2. We won't go into huge amount of detail about it because we've both talked about it before. But if anyone ever said your favourite ever Chelsea game, that's the one I always think of. And we were 2-0 down at half time. We came back, we won the game 4-2. We ended up winning the FA Cup, obviously, that season. And I'll just watch the second half of that one, because the second half is
it's amazing.
So yeah, that would be my choice. What about you?
Okay, my choice is the 2005 Chelsea versus Barcelona, the 4-2 game. We played them previously, many times in this era, really, and had mixed results. We'd won some, but maybe lost the second leg and went out of a competition. But this time, we'd actually lost in the new camp 2-1. Drogba got sent off through like some play acting from the Barcelona players, and I remember him being really pissed off. But we came back to the bridge, and it was like Mourinho had kind of been talking to the press about us needing a fast start, and no one knew what he meant by that. Chelsea was 3-0 up in about 15 minutes. That you'd have to fact check, but it was a lot quick. And Joe Cole was unplayable. Idiger Johnson was playing so well. And it's one of those games, Ronaldinho, I would say, is arguably my favourite ever player. Ronaldo, Brazilian Ronaldo, R9, I think is probably my favourite ever player. Whenever Brazil played, I was just mesmerised by him. And then Ronaldinho came along a little bit later, and I didn't quite get it at first because we didn't see him week in, week out. Then you started to see him in the Champions League a lot more. They got a lot more kind of publicity, obviously, on the TV, and became more accessible for us to see. But Ronaldinho was just unbelievable. And in this era, this period, there was nobody that could get near him, not one player. Kaká was kind of lurking for AC Milan, but so when you can have Ronaldinho score that amazing toe poke goal and just generally run the show for Barcelona, but you can still win 4-2, it's like you get the best of both worlds. You get to see a world-class player, the best at what he does, but you still win the game. And I think to be 3-0 up, and then we got pegged back to 3-2 quite quickly. The Carvalho block, and I forget who the Barcelona player he does, who he blocks at the time, but he does this kind of pretty nasty block, and then John Terry comes in and heads in the winner, or it wasn't the winner, but it was the 4-2, the fourth goal, which made it the winner. And they were like bitching and moaning at the referee, which we've done ourselves over the last, X amount of years against Barcelona, and never had a lot of luck. And that bit of shithouse at the end, we've seen all this amazing play, the Ronaldinho toe poking to the corner, and the crowd went silent after it. I'm like, oh no, here we go, they're through now. But we still managed to do something at the end, and I think Jose's celebration just capped off a brilliant night. So if I could pick a game, and I've seen this game many times, but if I could pick a game to watch over and over and over again, I think it would be the 4-2 against Barcelona.
Great choice. Okay, so final question we're going to do in this section is from Alex Duffield, who was on the podcast last week. So thanks, Alex. And it is, what is your favourite Chelsea chant? Joe, you go first.
Okay, well, you accused me of cheating on these quite a lot, so I thought I'll just cheat again. It's not quite, but I thought that there's songs and there's chants, the way I see it. So we may have the same one, we haven't discussed this, so I don't know, but my favourite song is Blue Day. When we get to a cup final and you win, and the Chelsea fans at Wembley and they're singing Blue Day at the end, and that comes on, I actually get goosebumps. I find it's like that. It's one of my happiest times, not just as a football fan, as a person. My kids have never experienced that situation. They've not been old enough to go to cup final that Chelsea have won.
We keep losing
But
them.
we keep losing at the moment, yeah. But I sort of pray for the day where I could be in a cup final with you and Frankie and Leo and Max, to go with them and actually be in a cup final and we win it and Blue Day comes on. It'll be one of my proudest moments in a weird way. So that's I love Blue Day, but I think as a chance, you can't get past 10 Men Went to Mo. I think it's a brilliant one. I think when the whole stand, or pretty much 90% of the whole stand, gets up and sings that, and you can hear it building. There'll be 3 or 4 groups, 10 rows away, and then suddenly it gets closer and closer with 4 Men Went to Mo, 5 Men Went to Mo, and as 9 men comes along, everybody starts singing it. And the best time I ever heard it was at Wembley, and that was actually in 1994. It was the FA Cup final against Man United. We lost 4-0, but we were so pumped because we hadn't been there for so long. United were sort of regulars at this time, and it was like, I remember being as a kid in the crowd. We've probably sung 10 Men Went to Mo 100 times. And again, the goosebumps I got from that at 9 men and 10 men went in, and all the dads and the mums are jumping around like lunatics. That for me is probably my favourite chant.
It's a great answer. My answer is 10 Men Went to Mo.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah, I'm going to go. So I'll add a couple of things to that. One is it's completely unique. So many chants now and songs you hear in the ground. Everyone's a different version of the same chant, right? 10 Men Went to Mo feels, so Chelsea. It's so brilliantly weird that we sing it as well, in terms of that, where it's like kids song, really.
I don't know what it means.
Yeah. It's so uniquely brilliantly Chelsea. It's been around for donkey's years. And there is a real magic to it, I should say. For those who don't know how it goes, basically, the whole idea is that on 10 men, everyone stands up in unison. And one of the great things is I've been in pubs before, like away games, and on 9 men, everyone goes down on the floor.
Yes.
Because you have that visual moment of everyone coming up at 10, and you get 10 men, 9 men, 8 men, and then obviously at the end of it, Chelsea. And a really good away day. And Joe and I are going to do a couple of away games soon and try and do a bit of a special podcast from the away day, doing voice notes from it. But when you have those really special moments on away days, and the away fans are obviously fantastic, it really is an amazing spectacle to see all the fans up doing it together. So yeah, it's don't probably hear it enough at the bridge anymore, but when you hear it,
we don't
it's amazing.
actually know.
It's amazing. Right,
that's a good answer, mate.
Thank you. Right, likewise. That's the Q&A section. Next up, we will preview the Liverpool game. Okay, so big game on Sunday as Chelsea head to Anfield to play Liverpool. We always, ahead of a Premier League game, obviously get the perspective from the opposition. And we had to go this week to my brother, who, as you know, Joe, chose the wrong colour and is a Liverpool fan. So I wanted to ask my brother why he chose Liverpool, because he was close to being Chelsea like our dad. Whether he thinks Liverpool can challenge for the title this year, until they made a really strong start, and his view on Sunday's game. So, Paul, over to you, and then Joe and I will preview the game itself.
I became a Liverpool fan in 1985 when I was 9 years old, and Chelsea were languishing mid-table in Div 2. And although I did like players like Kerry Dixon and David Speedy and Pat Nevin, who are actually decent players, like most of the time you sort of talk about these players and everyone would just look at you bemused saying, well, who the hell are they? So at the time, my best mate, Daniel Gilbertson, and my cousin Rob were both Liverpool fans. And they were obviously in the first division and decent at football, while Chelsea were bang average. And when I went to a football match with Dad, all the fans were just trying to pull the seats out to throw them at the players on the side of the pitch. So it wasn't the hardest decision to decide to go to an alternative first division team, albeit I think it was quite devastating for Dad. When it comes to did I ever regret it, obviously Chelsea were rubbish, and then Chelsea became extremely wealthy and bought lots of great players and then had a huge amount of success. And actually at the same time, Liverpool also had some pretty terrible times through that. But if I look back at my life of being a football fan, I always think about like the great teams in the late 80s that Liverpool had with Kenny Dalglish's teams, with John Barnes and Peter Beardsley and people like that. And then later on having people like Robbie Fowler and Michael Owen and McManaman. And then Steven Gerrard became my favourite player forever. And so I can never really look back and say that I was gutted to be a Liverpool fan, because genuinely over my life with Liverpool, it's given me enough to say, actually, they're pretty brilliant. So do you think Liverpool could be a genuine threat against City or Arsenal this season? Well, so to say that I think Arne Slot's had a very good start is an understatement. I think he's been very strong, but what I really liked about him is that he's kept things pretty simple. He seems to have allowed the team to be the team that it was before and maybe tweaked it slightly, which I think has been really good. I think that Gravenberch has been a fantastic addition to the team, albeit playing the role he played last season, but with a bit more freedom. You know, Liverpool got 99 points and didn't win the league against City. And while everybody's saying that City aren't quite the force they were last year and then Arsenal getting better, I find it very difficult to think that anybody other than City wins the league. And I have to imagine that this, particularly good start that Liverpool have had has been supported by the fact that we haven't played any of the really good teams yet. And it's very difficult to see whether that's going to all come apart when we meet some of the better teams that are playing well. And maybe one of the first of those is going to be against Chelsea this weekend. So I'm intrigued to see how it ends up. I think we could be a genuine threat, but I still think City wins the league by 10 points. How do Liverpool look coming into the game on Sunday? And are we confident of a win? Well, that we've been playing well. We've had good form. We've got quite a few of our players playing extremely well for the beginning of the season. So it's been a good start. Mo Salah's looking back to his old self. He wasn't looking the same at the end of last season. Luis Diaz started the season really, really well. Gravenberch playing central midfield looks brilliant. Our defence has been strong. There's a lot of positivity to what we're looking at. The one caveat to that could be the fact that we've just lost Alisson as a goalkeeper. And although most Liverpool fans would say Kelleher is not a massive drop down, he did have a massive rick during his international break, which may or may not play on his mind a little bit. Usually he's absolutely fine, but you kind of sit there going, if there was ever going to be an element that we don't want to have an issue, it would be against a very positive attacking Chelsea when we got our second choice goalkeeper who had a bit of a shocker during last week. So I think it will be a good game. I think I probably would have rather seen Chelsea right at the beginning of the season rather than the Chelsea that seems to be playing very well at the moment. But I don't think either of us are going to be massively relishing the challenge of playing each other. If the best Liverpool comes out on the day, I think we've got a good chance of winning. But equally, if a very good Chelsea turns up on the day, then there's a chance that you can nick it. I do think that Chelsea could be probably the favourites for fourth position, given the start that you've had, given the fact that your team seems to be playing really well. You've got players like Cole Palmer playing out their skin and looking like they're bringing other players up to the quality with them. And the kind of crazy squad that you have, it starts to make sense under Maresca. So I think, Liverpool and Chelsea could be fighting out between third and fourth, kind of hoping Liverpool first or second. But I suppose we would probably take Champions League next season if we could take it right now. But it'll be interesting to see how we play out. Enjoy the match. Hopefully not too much. Cheers, mate.
Okay, so that was my brother. Do you know, Joe, the first thing I thought when I was listening to Paul's obviously perspective on the game was, isn't it nice, even in Liverpool, we're doing really well, obviously top of the league and flying. It's nice to hear opposition fans actually thinking about Chelsea with a bit of respect. And not fear, obviously, because Liverpool are doing really well, but there is an element of, Chelsea will give us a tough game on Sunday. And if you think right back to the start of the season when we played Man City, you wouldn't have had that feeling. It shows how we've come even in the season so far, I think.
Yeah, I've spoken to a few Liverpool fans this week, actually, some from Liverpool itself, and there's a lot of basically mocking of us at the start of the season. Before a ball was kicked, I think they were all just thinking, haha, Chelsea spent loads of money again, absolute donkeys, basically. But they really changed their tune, and there is definitely an element of, oh, I can see what they're trying to do now. And I think that's not just Liverpool fans, that's Talk Sport, that's, Sky Sport. That you can name a lot of people that have basically, who were mocking us at the start, who have now said, oh, okay, this makes a bit of sense, Maresca, etc., etc. All what you've heard before. So
Some
I
would
think
say
it's nice.
we've been saying that on this
Well, mate,
podcast since the start, Joe.
Absolutely, but I think when you're not, if Chelsea isn't your sole focus, so if you are a Liverpool fan or a Man United fan, etc., you do feel as though that from the outside looking in, that it looks like chaos. But one thing they did say actually was, if I may, just go on to the owners very, very briefly, which was for their American-owned Fenway Sports, and they said that when they came in, they were very disillusioned with them. They felt as though that the Americans knew more than, when I say us, the Brits, about football basically, and that it was their way or the highway, and that they knew more. And it took a bit of a while for that to spin because they were buying players, and they actually mentioned a couple of players that were bought for like 20, 30 million, which at the time, which now sounds like chicken feed, but was quite a lot of money at the time. Henderson was mentioned. He was basically a laughing stock for a long time. £20 million for Henderson from Sunderland. What are they doing? And there was one or two other players that were also names I forget now, but it was a case of, oh, what are they doing? And I think this is very similar to what happened at Chelsea. There was a little bit at the beginning of they've gone mad on the transfer market, and maybe there was a little bit of madness, in fairness, but now you can sort of see there's a bit of a plan coming together, and the Americans may be saying, we think we know what we're talking about, but we're willing to listen to certain people within the game to go, actually, we'll do it a little bit your way, a little bit our way. There's a little bit of parallel with how Liverpool started, because they weren't very happy at the very beginning. Right?
Very interesting. Yeah, Andy Robertson was another weird one, wasn't it? When they signed him from...
No one thought he was any good.
And he didn't play for a while, and then obviously he turned
Absolutely.
into probably one of the best left backs in the world. Thinking of Liverpool, my mind went back to last year's game, and as we said in this podcast not long ago, we've only lost 2 Premier League games in the last 22 now, I think it is, and both of them have been horrendous. No, 3 since February. So you had the Man City game at the start of this season, the big defeat, obviously, at Arsenal, and then before that was Liverpool away.
Okay.
And that was a really weird game because we lost 4-1. It could easily be about 10-1. We looked absolutely all over the place. Nunes even missed a penalty. He had so many chances. And it had that feeling where I know you've talked a lot about in Chelsea big games, like this time, nice to see the players really step up and don't know, look like we're there to actually go and win the game, not just
Participation award.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that game we were awful. We were lucky it was only 4-1, but at the same time, for those who remember it, we also had a terrible refereeing performance. Played a penalty on Conor Gallagher at 0-0 not given. When Kunku scored that brilliant goal and he came off the bench, remember, he did a slant and run in the box.
Yeah.
Finish it well. And then he had, which is ridiculous, someone's throwing boxes around in this bar, sorry. A ridiculous penalty not given on him, which would have made 3-2. Would have made a game about arguably. But yeah, I think for me, going into the game on Sunday, I'm really looking to see a bit of a backbone in the performance, if that makes sense. You obviously said about yourself, but see us really look like we're there and we're not going to just be pushed over. And like, it felt a bit like men against boys in the game last year. They had that young right back playing and he ripped us apart.
Yeah, Bradley.
That's it, yeah. It'd be nice to see us on Sunday, since the big Sunday against the big game of the weekend, actually look like we deserve to be on that platform.
Yeah, I think if you look at the game as so this week, basically, who's injured, who's been on international duty, Liverpool have been a little bit fortunate with this. Van Dijk got sent off for Holland in the first game, so he didn't play the second match. Little bonus there. Mo Salah was sent back by Egypt early. I don't know why, but he was. A little bit of a bonus there. I think they're big players and had a little bit of resting time. Having said that, a lot of Chelsea players have scored their first goals on international duty this week. Nicholas Jackson being one, Mudryk being another one. And generally speaking, I think
Nkunku's goal was brilliant, by the way.
Nkunku scored as well. So there's been plenty of goals scored in international duty, and I think that can only breed confidence. That's not a bad thing. Now, injuries. Alisson's out injured. We know that for a little while. Kelleher's going to come in goal for them. You mentioned it. As we walked into the bar tonight, you said, Kelleher's playing, but he's always been really good against Chelsea, and he has, you're right. He was the one we went to the cup final, the League Cup final, when Kepa ballooned it over the bar and Kelleher made about 8 world-class saves in the day. He's got history with Chelsea. I feel as though Caicedo and Enzo, obviously they always go around the world playing their international games. McAllister's been to Argentina as well. He's not been brilliant coming back from international duty. A couple of Liverpool fans I spoke to last week said essentially when he's come back from Argentina on these games, he's been pretty horrendous. And apparently he's struggling a little bit with a groin strain. So that's one to look out for. I could see Lavia, in my opinion, coming into this game. I feel as though we've been waiting for a game where we need him. Obviously, he played in the first game against Man City, but he then got injured. And we haven't been able to really get him in properly from the start since. And Chelsea have been winning games. It's been harder to get him in. I'm not saying that we're going to play Lavia instead of Enzo or Caicedo, but it wouldn't surprise me if we do decide to go with the 2. If we go with the 3, obviously we've then got to work out if we're going to lose maybe Sancho or Madueke from the team. Personally, I would imagine it would be Sancho and Madueke would stay. That would be my personal opinion. But I think the centre of the midfield is going to be a very key position. I do feel as though that we can definitely go toe-to-toe Liverpool. When I think days gone by, we would go there and hope for a 1-0, a 2-1, a 2-0. And it would be built on a very solid John Terry, Carvalho, William Gallas performance. Now, I feel as though we're going there with a weaker defence. That's absolutely 100% guaranteed, but with a much more potent attack. Now, people might say, well, Drogba wasn't, shy in scoring a goal. No, I know that. But I feel as though there's goals in this Chelsea team all around. They're quite fluid, and everybody naturally falls into a position, and they're not rigid anymore. So I feel as though that this will be a fairly, when I say high scoring, it could be 2-2, it could be 3-2 in one direction or the other. But I feel as though there's goals in this game. I don't think if we do concede, I wouldn't be sitting on a sofa or if you'll go to Anfield and thinking this game's over. Chelsea will definitely pose a massive threat, and they are definitely worried, not just by Cole Palmer, by lots of our attacking players. So I think it'd be a very entertaining game.
I would really, I think the thing I'll be looking for in the team sheet will be that midfield, because personally, I think he'll be tempted to play the 3 of them. I think put Lavia in, like he did in the first game of the season against Man City, put that real strong midfield 3 in on paper. I would really hate to see him do that. To me, that would be almost putting handbrake on before you start the game.
I agree with that.
I could see, I actually quite like the idea of Lavia maybe coming in, maybe for Enzo alongside Caicedo, a little bit more defensive minded, a bit stronger. I like that idea, but personally, how fluid we look going forward, I really hope we stick to Palmer in the 10, the 2 wide men alongside him. And like I said, go and have a go. It's first v fourth. We're in that conversation in the big game. Let's go and have a real go at them.
I think Enzo would be the one that would miss out. I think on these international duties, you found that Enzo's been more tired than Caicedo. Caicedo definitely played. I haven't got the numbers in front of me, but I would suggest that he's played a lot more on his return. He even played, it was Bournemouth maybe, where we had international duty before, and he literally got off the plane the day before and then played the whole game. And he was captain. He was captain in that game. Wouldn't surprise me if it was Lavia and Caicedo in the midfield, because he's obviously been sitting on his hands for a week or two, Lavia. I agree with you. It does feel as though you're kind of giving them an upper hand. The team sheet's going to come out and we're going to defend against you slightly. Now, unless he comes up with a master plan, which is possible, we don't know what Maresca's got up his sleeve, I would like to see the same formation. It's Mourinho vibes. It's basically saying, no, we're as good as you, and we're going to take one of your own game. So I agree with you. I think it would be nice to see the midfield stay as a 2.
Okay, I'm going to throw a few quick fire questions at you.
Yep.
Quick fire players. On the left, Pedro Neto, Mudryk, or Sancho?
I think you stay as you are for now. I think stay with Sancho. He's the guy that's basically got the the shirt, if you want to call it that. People call it that. I think Neto would be the one I would. Well, Mudrik's come on a few times, but I think Neto's pace and his guile. And Mudrik's got pace, I know, but I think Neto is the one I think will come on. That's what I would probably see. I think against a better team, Neto would be the man. But we can only hope for Mudrik's, his debut game when he came on a sub for 15, 20 minutes and he was unplayable. That was 2 seasons ago now. I don't know, that left-hand side is so murky because Mudrik's actually done okay in the last couple of weeks. And I think as a player, I think he is developing. And for 20-minute bursts, you think to yourself, yeah, he's got something about him. But I think Neto, at £54 million being brought in recently, he would probably get the nod.
If the game's stretched and it's still tight, 60 minutes, 1-1, the idea of having those guys to bring on the wings is a great option.
He's very exciting, yeah, very exciting.
Bit of space in behind, it would be perfect for them. The two we think will come in, Vega and Adarabioyo at the back. Obviously, Fofana and Cucurella are suspended. How are you feeling about those guys?
Yeah, big game for Vega. I think he's a guy that I talked up a lot. I like him a lot. I think lots of Chelsea fans like him. He's got attitude, he's got passion, and he also plays very well, which helps. I think the manager will be disappointed he's lost both of them, only because he's liked that back four to stay the same, particularly in the Premier League. He's happy to change it for Europe and the League Cup. I think he will miss them, but I do feel as though Vega has a big test. If he can stand up to Salah and actually put in a very, very, not just average performance, but a performance that's he's going to make mistakes. Salah's that good, he'll make anyone look silly on his day. But I feel as though if he can just stand up to him and Chelsea can have a fairly positive result out of this game, even if the game finishes 3-2 to Liverpool, but we're in the game and we're competing. That's what Chelsea haven't done for so many years. And I'm not just talking about Liverpool. We've done this at Arsenal, we've done this at Man City. We haven't competed in these games. The first game against Man City, I didn't think we competed that well. I thought we were okay, a bit safe on the day. But I feel as though Maresca isn't a manager to sit on his laurels. He won't be happy with that Man City game at the start of the season. I think it's something that he's probably nagged at him a little bit. What could he have done better? What can he now do? He didn't like Nkunku on the left. We haven't seen that since. He's not going to play the same team. He won't make the same mistake twice. That gives me hope. That gives me a joy in a way. But going back to Vega very quickly, I think it is a tough game for him, but I think he's more than capable of putting in a performance against Salah that is good enough to get us a result on the day. I think Tosin, I've really enjoyed watching. Again, a different kettle of fish. West Ham away to Liverpool away is a different game altogether. I gave Tosin a lot of credit against West Ham, and I expect to see a fairly good performance against Liverpool. I don't think it's a massive difference between Fofana and Tosin. That's my personal opinion. Some might disagree with that. I don't think Fofana has lived up to the hype since his injuries, and he has been injured, and I'm sorry for that, but I think Tosin's a more than capable substitute for want of a better word. And I don't see Liverpool causing us it's not like we're putting in a U-team player. I think Tosin's experienced, he's 26, he's one of the oldest players in the team. And I think all the players like him. And I think that makes a huge difference. And if he makes a mistake on the day, the players will get around him and support him. So it could be worse. We could be bringing in a lot worse. I think Vega and Tosin as substitutes for those two players are going to be more than capable of putting in a performance.
Nice one. Okay, and then final question. We'll both answer this one. Next 4 games. Liverpool away, Newcastle at home, Man United away, Arsenal at home. How many points would you be happy with? I'll go first. I've had a bit more thinking time on this. I'm going to go, if you gave me 7 points now, I'd take it. So that basically means we win 2, we draw 1, we lose 1. I think from those 4 games, that would be a good return.
Well, you know my thought on this. I think people get very caught up in wins and losses. Not so much the wins and losses, the draws. We drew that game, so that's good. It's good for momentum. It's not good for points. I think if you won 2 and lost 2, so 7 points for you is obviously a much better return than what I'm going to say. I would rather see Chelsea have a real go at Liverpool than a real go at, say, Arsenal and lose them both, 3-2, 2-1, and actually win the other 2. And it be like, oh, we beat Man United, we beat Newcastle quite comfortably, opposed to just getting over the line against Man United or drawing with them. I feel as though United and Newcastle are there for the taking, much like we were last year. I mean, Man United are a poor football team. They are a poor football team. And you've got to be going with the idea that you're going to win that game. Newcastle aren't much better.
We haven't won at Old Trafford in years, have we?
No, I just feel as though 6 to 7 points would be a good barometer. I actually think it could be that we actually draw 2, win 1 and lose 1. So we might end up only with 5, but I would much rather us actually have a go, like I say, win 2 and lose 2. But we've actually been in the game and tested those teams, and they've got something to think about in the return game later in the season.
It's a good shout, actually. I think it's been so positive around Chelsea at the moment that people need to remember this is a really tough little run we've got. We might not get as many points as we want, but as long as the performances are good and the signs are there, to just stay balanced about it all.
I completely agree. I was very annoyed after the Nottingham Forest game. I know my voice note was a little bit different to yours, and on reflection, I probably should have been a little bit more like you. But it was just heart on sleeve moment. I felt as though we should have gone toe to toe on the front. We should have taken them not to the cleaners. I suppose they surprised me by how good they were, and I didn't give them the respect at the beginning of the game, and that's on me. So when we actually ended up drawing the game and could have lost it, actually, I was more frustrated with myself than Chelsea, I suppose.
Well, let's hope Sunday goes the right way and we're very happy.
Oh, mate, I hope so too.
Should we do a prediction? We don't normally do them.
I hate them. You know, I hate them. But go on, let's hear yours.
I think we're going to lose 2-1.
Okay, that's very fair. Very fair of you. I would go a step further.
8-1.
We're gonna lose 4-1. I think that we will get a very, very good score draw. So I'm going to go for 2-2.
Love it. Take it now. We're very happy. Right, we finish, as always, with the best and worst memories of the fixture coming up. And it's my turn to do Liverpool away. And I'm going to do them here live, Joe, and you can give me your reactions to the game. Should we start with the worst?
No, always start with the worst.
The worst is a weird choice because we didn't lose the game.
That's all right.
But it was April 2013. Chelsea were going for top 4, isn't it? Very tight race for top 4. I think it was Spurs at the time. A certain Rafa Benitez was Chelsea manager. And I talk you through what happened.
I don't remember the game. Go on.
As I talk you through it, you'll remember. Chelsea went 1-0 up in the first half. Oscar scored from a corner. I think it was a header. Daniel Sturridge equalised for Liverpool. And Eden Hazard with a penalty after about an hour puts Chelsea ahead. With about 20 minutes to go in the game, a young lad called Luis Suarez bites Branislav Ivanovic, doesn't get sent off.
He was hungry.
He was hungry, fair enough. The game goes on. Chelsea goes into injury time. It's a huge win for Chelsea, a very key win in the race for top 4, which at the time felt incredibly important. And I'm watching the clock, 93 minutes, 94 minutes. And I remember vividly walking around, pacing around my living room going, just blow the whistle. Just shout it, just blow the whistle. Blow the whistle. In the 97th minute, Daniel Sturridge floats across to the back post in front of the clock. Luis Suarez, who shouldn't be on the pitch, heads the ball in. The 97th minute, Liverpool equalise. I have thrown my phone into the sofa. It's bounced off the sofa, hit the coffee table, smashed the screen into 100 pieces. And it was a moment where I was so angry in so many different ways that it summed up what it meant to be a football fan. I mean, when I was looking at the games of like Liverpool, we've been stuffed quite a few times at Liverpool.
Yeah.
Last year was bad, but we've been done a young years 5-1, terrible performances. But sometimes when you get smashed, there's a certain amount of a right smile, there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah.
It's when you're 2-1 up in the 97th minute and Suarez scores the angriest I've been. And I seem to remember like calling you or messaging you saying, I can't even talk, I'm so angry.
Well, I actually didn't watch this game. That's why I don't remember it as vividly as you, because I was out with my brother-in-law for his birthday at a restaurant, funny enough. And we were both doing that thing where his mum was there, my wife was there, we're watching the game. We're listening to the game on our phones almost. And we're 2-1 up, like you just said, and I'm laughing. And all we've heard is...
He's a big Liverpool fan, by the way.
He is, big Liverpool fan. Big Liverpool fan, sorry. And we've heard that Suarez has bitten Ivanovic, and like, it's a massive thing, a huge thing. And he's not laughing about it, but he's like, oh, he's got away with one sort of thing. And then the goal going at the end, like you just said there. And he told me, I'm thinking the game's over. I'm trying to forget the game altogether. Having a nice time, eating some food, having some drinks. And he's just got into a mad one when Liverpool had scored. And I obviously knew what happened before he even sort of said, I can completely understand, mate, why that was your worst case.
You did well not to watch that one. And then my best one, this came actually through really quickly because it felt like, for those of a certain age, an iconic Chelsea game. I started going to Chelsea in 1993, and for the next 10 years, never saw Chelsea win a Liverpool. And to be honest, never really saw us get close to winning Liverpool. Always felt, because my big brothers who've heard, big Liverpool fan, we did very well against them at home. Never won away, never won at Anfield. It almost felt like it's impossible to win there. Roman Abramovich comes in that summer. Amazing summer to be a Chelsea fan. We're buying star after star, linked to every name under the sun. First game of the season, away at Liverpool. The big Sunday game, very much like this week. And I honestly would say I don't remember ever being more excited about a Chelsea game in my life. You're always excited for the first game of the season. You're always excited when new signings are coming in. But it was like a new team.
You're missing one key detail. You've got to put the white kit in.
Oh, amazing.
The white kit was so good.
An iconic white kit. Man of the match that day, scores the first goal of the game. Juan Sebastian Veron, who obviously didn't turn out to be a great signing, but was probably the most exciting signing actually of that summer, arguably. He scores, great goal actually to go 1-0 up. We played really well, could have been out of sight to be honest. Michael Owen equalises on 80 minutes with a retaken penalty, because as they often do at the start of a new season, they bring in new rules.
It was, you're right.
I think he put the penalty wide. Pinicini, the goalkeeper, moved a bit off his lines.
It was nothing, was it?
Absolutely ridiculous. He retook, he scored. And in the 87th minute, Frank Lampard floats a lovely ball over in front of the Chelsea fans. And Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank pings the ball in the corner. I watched it at Andy Lee and Tony Lee's house. We might be listening to podcasts. We went mental, jumping around that living room. And it just felt like a turning of the tide, that Chelsea could win at Anfield, this new era under Roman Abramovich, and in this, what would happen in the next year or two, finally beating Arsenal, those kind of things. It just felt like a real moment for me of like, oh wow, we're about, things are changing, and we're now in the gap conversation.
Oh mate, it felt the same for me. That turning bit, it was that. Was it the first game of the season? It was, wasn't it? Yeah. And being quite nervous, as you would be, it's still away at Liverpool. It doesn't matter if they put their reserves out, it's always going to be a good game. And I felt exactly the same. That win felt massive. We're here, we've arrived. And one of the other bits I said about the white kit, which I just find iconic in that game, but it was Roman Abramovich himself in the stands, celebrating in a quite a weird way. But it was his excitement. He was like a kid in a sweet shop. He's bought the club. He's put this team together. It was his money, and you could sort of see he made this statement. Well, not him, via him, but via his people that said that he wants Chelsea to be like the Barcelonas and the Real Madrid. He wants this free-flowing football. Chelsea became a fairly robust, strong, we're not going to lose type of a team. We're seeing more now of what Roman wanted when he was actually in charge. That's my opinion. But Chelsea at that time, it was so exciting. Literally one of the best wins at Anfield, one of the best wins full stop. And the fact that they got that moody second retaken penalty, that I'd forgotten about that. You bring it up, that's a real memory for me. Yeah, so mate, that's a superb 2-1. That's a good work. That's a good bet one, mate.
Yes. And let's hope on Sunday that our new owners, relatively new owners, can get their first win at Anfield.
Wouldn't it be nice? Wouldn't it be nice?
Thanks for listening to the podcast. Hope you enjoyed our live show. And We will see you next time.
Cheers, guys.
Thank you. Those were the Chelsea notes for this week. If you enjoyed the podcast, do us a favour and share it with a fellow Blue. And we'd love to hear your thoughts, so leave us a review wherever you're listening. Wherever you may be, stay carefree, and remember, every little thing's gonna be all right.